Nick Ienatsch, Yamaha Champions Riding School, and every road racer I know, every street rider I know, and every dirt bike rider I know is always searching for grip and always wondering about grip. And new riders wonder how much grip there is, and road racers wonder how much grip they can use. And a couple years ago, we came up with a pretty cool idea on how to explain grip, and it's just giving this tire 100% of grip available. It can only grip as hard as it can grip. One of the things we try to do at our school is make this sport as simple as we can. It's a very difficult sport, but it's quite simple. And one of the ways we approach the simplicity of it is how we describe grip or traction. Front tire grip is simply brake pressure and lean angle. Those two things combined is what makes up front grip. In the back, it's certainly brake pressure and lean angle going into the corner, but most of us are worried about throttle and throttle acceleration and grip coming off the corner. Up front, if we have 100% of grip available, 100 points of grip available, if we have 0 points of lean angle, we can go to all 100 points of brakes straight up and down. If you exceed 100 points of brakes, the back end comes off the ground on a sport bike, or on a cruiser, the front starts to tuck because you're exceeding that 100 point limit. As we get to the place we want to turn our motorcycle into the corner, we'd like to take and trade off braking points as we add lean angle points. It's called trail braking. You're trailing off brake pressure as you add lean angle. And you're getting a feeling for braking straight up and down, setting the speeds, getting things slowed down. As we get to that turn-in point, and we trail off brake pressure as we add lean angle points. And it's a simple deal. If you're holding lean angle points, you can hold brake pressure points. If you want to add a little bit more lean angle points, you're going to give away some brake pressure points. And the nice thing about this whole idea is if you're holding lean angle points, in other words, you're happy with the way your bike is turned into the corner, you're happy with your radius, you can hold brake pressure points. And as you slow the motorcycle, radius tightens, bike is more under control, etc. So this is a great way to think about grip in the front. Brake pressure versus lean angle. Out back, if this was a rear tire, going into the corner, it's certainly the same idea, lean angle versus brake pressure going in with the rear brake, but most people are concerned with acceleration and acceleration grip. So we just kind of go the other way. As we want to add throttle, we've got to be able to give away lean angle. And that gets us into thinking about how to stay within this tire's grip. Let's show you two of the issues that we see on the motorcycle and how to fix those, just all talking about traction. All right, so we're looking at that rider that's got that aggressive hand on that brake lever, and every time they touch the brake, they grab 30 points. And you can see that front end get shocked and rebound, and what we'd like to do is start at 0, build up to 1, 2, 3, and let's do that. Let's show you. We might get to 30, but it's the pace at which we get to 30 points. You can see that linear application a lot smoother, and that's what we're talking about, loading the tire before you work the tire. Now we've got probably the same rider, right? The same rider that believes they're gonna get more aggressive in the sport. The same rider has a 30-point hand on the throttle. Every time they pick up the throttle, they're picking up so aggressively that if they're leaned over with much lean angle, or they're in the rain, or it starts to sleet, or they're in a gravel parking lot, or they've got a new tire, pick your excuse, but every time they pick up the throttle, they pick it up too quickly. Every time they touch the brakes, and I mean every time, in their car, truck, van, on their bicycle, every time they touch the brakes, they have 30 points. What we'd like to do is think about this throttle. You can hardly see my hand move, but you hear the engine revving, because this is the initial throttle we need. The initial throttle, load that tire, and then we build pressure and take away the angle point. Bike getting louder, hands hardly moving. That's the type of feel you have to have. You do it smoothly, so you're training for the worst possible scenario. Marine Corps likes to say, we train for the threat. We train for the threat. The threat is you're leaned over in a corner some days, could be this Sunday, and you see that problem, the car spun out, whatever else it is, and you can squeeze on that smooth brake and brake at lean angle because you load the tire before you work the tire. You mush that rubber out on the ground and you bring that bike to a stop. And so always, every time you pick up brakes, is smooth and build linear. Every time it's all smooth and build linear application. So let's take a look at that rider, what that rider just did by grabbing 30 points of initial brakes and grabbing, let's say, 30 points of initial throttle, just to give us some numbers. And at this, remember, at this lean angle, that rider is fine because they're not leaned over past 70 points. So front tire, if they grab 30 points, they're fine. They're still fine. Rear tire, if they snap on 30 points with the throttle, they're fine. But look at, as we go quicker and carry more lean angle, those habits get us in trouble. 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, and we're down. We grab 30 points up here, we're fine. So new riders coming back into the sport, riders that believe mistakenly that you're gonna get more aggressive to go faster, you've gotta get that out of your brain. You're gonna get smoother and lighter with initial brakes to go faster, because look at this lean angle, no problem with 30 points, but at this lean angle, you're down before you know it. So every time you pick up your brakes, and every time you pick up your throttle, think of this saying: load the tire before you work the tire. Load the tire before you work the tire. And the late great Tommy Aquino taught for us a lot, and he told his students, listen, it's just a millisecond of load, but you've got to let that fork spring load and weight go into the forks. You got to let that shock load and weight go into the rear tire. And so that millisecond of load, and here's what Tommy's talking about: instead of grabbing 30 points, you want to go to roll off onto that front brake, put the load in, and watch how that tire spreads out. So at this point, Tommy's loading that tire, getting it all loaded up, and look at the grip we have now, as opposed to the rider that grabs 30 points. Exact same lean angle, but look at the grip. Here's a grab of 30 points. I'll do a little more lean angle. Grab of 30 points. It's down before you know it. And here at the same lean angle is that load that we're putting in. And look at the pressure we can put on that tire because we put it in a linear fashion. As you roll off onto that front brake lever, weight goes into the forks. The spring takes a load. Weight goes into the tire spreads out. As you pick up initial throttle, weight goes back to the shock spring takes a load, goes into the rear tire spreads out. The reason good riders are good, and you can be insanely good at this sport in a very short time, is because the good riders ride on more rubber than the riders who crash a lot. The good riders have that initial brake and initial throttle application that's so smooth, they load the tire before they ask the tire to work. So something we joke about with our military riders and our Marines and all these guys, we say, hey, you're majors, we're gonna make you a major, and you're a math major. You're always trading off brake pressure and lean angle. You're always trading off throttle and lean angle. So if you've got the bike in the corner and you've got the throttle open and you've got to tighten your radius, you've got to add lean angle, you roll off the throttle to add lean angle. You don't just leave the throttle open and add lean angle. You roll off because you've only got 100 points of grip. If you're trailing the bike into the corner and the bike's not turning well enough, you stay with that brake lever. You're leaned over at 99%, you can brake at 1%. And we'll show you the practice for that on the motorcycle. So this makes sense, doesn't it? This is a fairly simple sport. It's very difficult, but it's fairly simple. Brake pressure and lean angle is front grip. Brake pressure and lean angle going into the corner is rear grip, but most of us are worried about throttle and lean angle coming off the corner. So if those are the components of grip, does it make sense to anybody right now that you're going to flick your bike in the corner? If you're not going to add brake pressure points quickly and throttle points quickly for the rest of your riding career, does it make sense to add lean angle points quickly? And you're thinking, no, it doesn't make sense. So to get into the idea of, if I can steer my bike in a linear fashion, right? Instead of flicking it in, if I can steer it in a linear fashion, I can trail off brake pressure in a linear fashion. If I can go across the seat smoothly in a linear fashion, I can be smoother with the throttle because I won't be snapping the bike around. So the idea of being linear with everything you do also gets into not just throttle, initial throttle, and initial brakes, but how you steer the motorcycle into the corner. How you let go of the brakes is a big deal. You get the bike into the corner, the front tire is loaded, you're coming into the corner. If you jump off the brakes, you take the load off that tire very quickly. If you do your very best to come off that brakes just like you applied that brake, so your first 0 to 5% of brake application is smooth and linear, then you build pressure, and the last 5 down to 0 of your brake application is smooth and linear. Now you're putting a load into the tire smoothly, and you're taking the load out of the tire smoothly, and you become that rider who rides every bike on every tire, on every road, on every track, in every condition smoothly, because you have that linear application of initial throttle, final throttle. It can be pretty quick, but it can't be abrupt. So you're starting to get the feeling that the brakes are the secret to this sport. It'll make you safer, faster. Being able to master the brakes will make you safer, faster. And if you go out and practice your emergency braking, remember that initial brake squeeze is to load the fork spring, put the rubber on the ground, then you build pressure. Don't stab at it on emergencies. Build that muscle memory of that initial brake squeeze to spread that tire out like we described. Here's what you can do. You can mess with this today. You can mess with this every time you get your bike out of the garage. You can mess with this in your car, truck, van, bicycle. And it's a little drill called the Brake Light Initiative. It's on cycleworld.com. It's called the Brake Light Initiative by Nick Ienatsch. And if you get on there, take a look at this and you'll be able to read about it and get a feel for it. And do this drill the next time you move your motorcycle. Maybe it's this afternoon, maybe you're going for a ride. Before you ride your motorcycle, do this drill. And here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move our motorcycle with the brake light on. And in other words, we're gonna put our pads against our rotors with the brake light on, and we're gonna move this bike. And right now, I just grabbed 10 points, and I can't move my motorcycle because I only have a 10-point hand. What we're gonna try to develop in you is that ability to pick up 1 point of brake. So look at, my bike is now moving. As I go to 2 points and 3 points and 4 points, I stop it. I go to 3, 2, 1. I can go to 0 and then go to 1 and 2 and light that brake up and move that motorcycle. So the next time you ride your motorcycle, or maybe even today after you watch this video, go get your bike and push it around with the brake light on. Push it around with the pads touching the rotors. If you can't do it, it's because you have a 10-point hand or a 30-point hand. Try to develop that 1-point hand and do it for a long time. Next time you get to your motorcycle, do it right now, maybe today, is you're pushing this bike around with the brake light on. This is what makes you very good in a very short time. This is what makes you a champion. Quit crashing. You ride forever. You ride every bike fast. You ride in every condition fast. You have the ability to pick up 1 point, light up that brake light, and keep that bike